I'm starting with a seamed piece of very lightweight fabric. This is very lightweight silk georgette fabric. And step one says start with our wrong side up, flip it over, and trim any vertical seams in the hem area to 1/4 inch, or no, sorry, 1/8 inch, and press it to the left. So we're going to hem this line right here, and we do have a vertical seam crossing over our hem. So I'm gonna get my scissors and just go ahead and trim the seam allowance so it's only 1/8 inch wide, and then I'll press it all to the left. Okay, so the vertical seam has been trimmed to only 1/8 inch wide at our hemline. So step number 2 is to go ahead and thread trace the actual hemline. So again, the hemline is the part that will be folded on once it's done. That's going to set the length of your garment. To help me thread trace this fabric, instead of chalk, I'm just putting down a little bit of draping tape. And then I do have some special basting thread that should slide through pretty easy and break apart when pulled. It's cotton thread, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in some stitches. The goal will be to pull these out when we're done with this technique sample. Step 3 asks us to actually machine stitch below our actual hemline. It would like it to be 1/8 inch below. They'd like us to use really short stitches. So I'm gonna actually go take this to the machine and put in a row of short machine stitches that'll run parallel to my thread tracing 1/8 inch away. So I just finished step number 3, setting the machine stitch at a short stitch and stitching 1/8 inch below the thread trace hemline into the seam allowance. And I started out pretty good at 1/8 inch, but I noticed here when I went over the seam, gosh, I don't think that's 1/8 inch anymore, darn it. But then I finished strong back to 1/8 inch. So we'll see how that messes me up, but I got a little bit too close to my thread trace line here. I feel like it's close to like 1/16 inch. So that's okay, the show must go on. So I'm gonna move on to step 4, which is to fold the hem, that's our hem, to the wrong side on the machine stitching. Okay, so we're not folding the hem on the hemline, we're folding the hem on our machine stitching. Okay, so maybe I take this to the iron, give it a really good press. We should see the stitching right on the fold. This part of the steps, it's not really illustrated in the little hand-drawn illustration in the book, but it's definitely mentioned in step number 4. They make it pretty clear that you do this, and then they want us to actually edge stitch 1/16 inch to secure it. And then finally we'll trim off the leftover seam allowance. So anyways, I'm gonna take it to the iron, I'm gonna press it, and then I'm gonna take it to the machine and stitch a 1/16 inch, very close to my edge. And again, if I had stitched 1/8 inch away, then I should not be catching my basted hemline here, right? It should be in between my actual hemline and the machine stitch, this little edge stitch that I'm going to be putting in. So here I go. Okay, so I went ahead and I sewed it 1/16 inch. I edge stitched it. But the only problem is I did end up getting my basting stitch a little bit. Not here, not these two are pretty good. This first one's okay. So I could take it out and redo it if I want, or it'll just be harder for me to take out my basting stitch and just kind of learn from it. So I'm just gonna keep going. The next step is to actually trim this as the seam allowance, gosh, as close as we can to our edge stitch. So don't cut your garment. There we go. Oh gosh, what is the best way to do this? Maybe if I start on the bottom. Okay, and the next step, number 6, is to turn under the hem. I can use fell or slip stitches to secure it. So turning under the hem, we want our hemline right on the fold. That's what that white basting stitch is. And I think I'm just going to use some slip stitches to attach it to my garment. Okay, the final step will be to remove the basting, and voila, you can see, my slip stitches are visible from the right side of the garment. So I tried to take little teeny stitches, small as I could, and tried to space them out as evenly as I could. And yeah, this is basically it. So let me go ahead and get that based out. The book also mentions that the hand-rolled hem isn't quite as flat as the pin hem. So we just finished the pin hem, and I'm kind of comparing it to the hand-rolled hem, which is on top, and this one's on the bottom, the pin hem. And feeling it, yeah, I mean, sure, they both feel kind of flat to me, honestly. I guess you could argue this one's slightly more flat. This is more rolled. Not a huge difference, but why don't you guys feel yours and see if you can feel the difference. Does one feel more flat to you than the other one? The pinned hem being the more flat one than the hand rolled hem. And let me know.